As the date for the primary elections of political parties draws ever closer, there are twists and surprises. Nigerians are witnessing withdrawals of interest by aspirants in the cabinet of President Muhammadu Buhari, while the president had asked all members of his cabinet seeking elective office to resign on or before this Monday. That's today, the 16th of May. Although all of them attended a valedictory session where the president bid them farewell, a number of them said after the valedictory session that they have withdrawn their interest. Well, the latest is a Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Talin, who has pulled out of the Plateau South senatorial race. Well, she says she voluntarily stepped down after consulting widely with her family and close associates. Well, she joins the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige. The ministers believed to have formally resigned include Rotimi Amechi, Godswill Akpabio, Timipre Silva, Uche Oga, Ogbonnaya Onu, and Chukwuemeka Nwajuba. Well, for more on this, I'm being joined by Edozie Ezeugwa, who is the President General and leader of the Eastern Union Congress. And I have also Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, Arise News Analyst. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us on the Arise interview. Let me begin with you, Edozie Ezeugwa. Those who have withdrawn their interest in running for political office, they are saying, let me quote Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. He says he's withdrawing for reasons of patriotism and altruism. What do you make of that? What's your understanding of this withdrawal from the race?
Thank you so much. That's a Nigerian politician for you. You know, everything is game. Probably was thinking that the office would have, be there for him to use as a platform for him to achieve the purposes of being in office and at the same time running for another, aspiring for another office. But the first remains that these things are in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's only because, would I say that Nigerians are not disciplined? You can make many laws, so many laws, but implementation. And for us as a Nigerian, for us to have that conscience and respect, to opt out, quite all right that we are going to contest election. You are still in office, appointee for that matter. At least few months to the period, you would have been able to be manly enough to take exit. During the Obasanjo era, such things we didn't witness it. But here, on this present government, a lot of things are happening. And I don't know why.
Prof. Adeniyi, I mean, who should be enforcing that, law that Ezeugwa says, look, these things are clearly written in black and white in our constitution. I know that respected senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has also raised issues with this. He even thinks that the president should just go ahead and sack, all parties involved.
Yes, well, I think there are many ways to look at it, really. Ordinarily, you will have expected that we will have grown up to a stage where public officials will understand the fact that they cannot have two interests conflicting at the same time. You are holding a public office, a plum one at that, and you are vying for another office. The expectation, the ethical responsibility is that you should step down from one, especially the one at hand, so you can face the other one squarely and concentrate on the one in the interest of the public. So it's going to be very difficult for us not to have a conflict of interest if you decide to combine the two. So because of the lack of understanding on the part of the concern of public officials, the onus is now on the president to rein in and ask them to step down, even earlier than the president did. So we're having two aspects to it now. And if the president was reluctant, massively the president has responded, and that's the right direction to go. That's the right step to take.
But are we to conclude that President Buhari, in making that directive, at the last FEC meeting, when he said they should resign their appointment, did he at the same time mean that they had the choice of withdrawing? That if you're running, withdraw?
No, I'm not sure there was a choice.
Or is it implied?
it wasn't implied, but of course, like he said, there was this expectation on the part of the concerned public officials that they could probably pull the two together. They thought they could put it together until the president came from the blues and asked them to step aside. So in asking them to step aside now, they probably went and reviewed situations and said, look, I still have 1 year on this plum job that I'm doing. 1 year, I'm sure of that, all things being equal, but because the president is not giving to musical chairs. So ordinarily, I'm still going to remain for another 1 year. So why should I sacrifice that and go for one that I'm not certain, especially those of them vying for the president.
Bird in hand is worth
two in the bush. So I think those are the calculations that came in. I mean, that must have come in because 1 year more as a transport minister, for instance, or as labor minister, or as justice minister, I think is much more assured than the uncertainty of political contestation.
Well, the real issue, Edozie, is they attended a valedictory session with Mr. President, meaning that they were done with whatever their primary assignment or previous assignment was. Is it possible that after attending a valedictory session, is there any law really that allows you to, take back your appointment after you have resigned? Let me read section 306, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution. It says the resignation of any person from any office established by the Constitution shall take effect when the writing or the resignation letter is received by the authority or person to whom it is addressed. Are we to conclude then that it is possible that these persons may have written out their letters of resignation without necessarily handing it over to the authority?
Thank you so much.
Is that a loophole that they may have taken advantage of?
No matter whatever the plot, whatever, it is now left to the boss. The boss is the president and commander-in-chief himself to look at the science of, legal aspect of it and the moral aspect of it. You must have to leave. Once you have opted to, involve in a political process, you have that plan to contest and all those, and all of a sudden, because the president have given a directive, you decide to withdraw. No. A responsible leader will take decisive actions. Whether you submit or you don't submit, you must have to leave for him to, reconstitute the cabinet back. Don't forget the fact that they have gone to the same executive. They have gone to the court in Abia State to get the court, ruling. Then, a few days later or a few weeks later, the court, the same court in Abuja here, Federal High Court, or Court of Appeal, whatever they have obtained in Abia State. That put them to the point of, quagmire, what to do again, because there's opportunity they are hoping to use. It's no longer there for them.
Yeah, I mean, people like Emeka Wajuba, for example, when he declared, his initial reaction was, look, I'm not going to resign because, the court had struck down this vexatious section 84(12). Only for it to be upheld again by the appeal court.
Exactly.
Yes.
Even the Attorney General, that was their hope.
Yes.
But until when their hope is dashed, so they now start having a double mind, whether to push forward. What is the consequences of if we decide to step down and resign? Does
it raise a question of how badly, they wanted the position that they were going to contest for? Taking the position, the person of the Attorney General of the Federation, it's been out there for a long time that he's been, eyeing the position of governor of Kebbi State. Does it raise a moral question for you? Does it raise a question of how passionate, number one, are they about this, sought after position? Is it just, to remain relevant, No,
I think in the case of the Attorney General, for instance, he was passionate about being governor of Kebbi State. And of course, the position was his to lose because a very influential person, and from what we have seen in recent time, he's got a war chest, so it's a case of the political public or the office holders trying to eat their cake and having it, But of course, it wasn't going to work out, If it worked out, at the moral angle, where they didn't bother, the ethical aspect, where they were not bothered, at the legal, technical aspect of it, you know, I mean, they were booby traps, you know, and one of them was the one presented to them by the president. If not for the presidential intervention, I think they would just have gone ahead, holding their political offices and contesting for those elections. You know, in the case of those running for president, for instance, we have quite a number of them, and there are evidence to show that not many of these people, you know, could have been passionate about the position, irrespective of their knowing, you know, what to do if they became president, if they were president, for instance. You know, they knew what to do. They are very experienced people, but their chances are largely suspect, you know. So those ones, you could understand that the passion may not be there. Maybe it was just to be right in terms of political calculation, in terms of political arithmetics, but in terms of the actual assurance that they were going to get it, I doubt if they actually have it. You know, but for those running for lesser offices, governorship, senatorial, of course, their chances were brighter, you know, as the case could be.
But Pauline Talent, for example, I mean, the Minister for Women Affairs, she was gunning for the, you know, senatorial seat. She too has withdrawn. I
mean, that's what I said.
And she says, well, it's because I had, consulted my constituency.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And they're saying, for the purpose of delivering, strength, more traction for the women, they said I should continue as Minister for Women Affairs. Let me still quote Femi Falana and ask both of you gentlemen if it's correct in his assertion that former ministers cannot return to the cabinet either by their own volition or on the directive of the president. And then the question is, does the president need to resubmit their names? Because that's what Falana is saying. Since they have resigned, they will need to, the president will need to resubmit their names to the National Assembly, and they will still have to go through screening.
I think the learned senior advocate is probably acting from the strict legal procedure. You know, if it was true that they actually submitted their resignation, apart from media portrayal of that act in itself, you know, what is the evidence that they actually submitted their letter of resignation? It's only the president, or maybe the secretary of the government or the foundation that can attest to this. We probably are not too sure. So if they did, then it means the position of learned senior advocate would probably hold, which means that their names will have to be resubmitted. But if they didn't, it was just media speculation, you know, expectation that this is actually what the procedure should be. I think the question of the president having to submit their name back to the Senate will not arise. So it's just a question of, you know, I mean, the president is in the position now to tell us whether there was a written resignation sent to him. And if it didn't happen, then of course the question of the procedure that the learned senior advocate is advocating may not hold.
But are we not to conclude then, Ezeugwa, the mere fact that they were all present at this valedictory session with the president, their presence in itself signaled the fact that they had actually resigned their previous, positions as minister. Ngige was there live. You had the Attorney General. Of course, Emeka Nwajuba had apologized for his absence. He wasn't there. As a matter of fact, he was the first to actually resign his position as a minister.
Once you have made up a mind to push up your letter of resignation, either to the secretary to the government or to the president, right from that moment, you are no longer part of the cabinet again. Simple because you have, pushed this in you after you have.
My point is even that there were, as you can see, there were that valedictory session.
That's
Pauline Talent is there.
That's where I'm going.
Amechi, a few others, Obonayano,
That's where I'm going.
Yes.
So if they decided after the valedictory section to decide that they are not going to, it makes the mockery of the government, everything. I don't think it can be accepted in any way. Basis of law, basis of morality, basis of anything you can think of. So I feel that the president should do the needful. If we have made up your mind, at the point you submit that you intend to resign, the government accepted their decision for purpose of resignations, when only for you to turn around again and ask them that they should give you back that you are withdrawing your letter, it doesn't make sense again. So because of greed and that kind of thing, and that is why sometimes...
Is it fair to conclude that just because of greed or because they think they still have... Look, a whole year you know, to still be in government, to add whatever value they believe they've been adding since they've been in that position. Don't you think all of this raises a wider question?
That's what I'm
saying.
As
to the morality, or, you know, otherwise, whatever word you want to use, that you still have a whole year to go. Who wins and who loses in all of this? I mean, the people who are expecting good governance, the deliverables, and all of that, and you deny them by saying that political appointees should resign 1 year. At least that's what's happening right now. If the president
have not come out to give that order, they wouldn't have resigned. Some of them that have resigned wouldn't have done so. They feel that they can still stay there and use that office to achieve their purposes. They are not willing to leave. For the purpose, if I say greed, it's greed. Because you are sitting in an office, public office for that matter, denying the people the services you're supposed to. Because more or less every now and then you'll be going out to campaign, doing one thing or the other, out of office, where you're supposed to function effectively. You are not doing that. The office is rendered useless. People will have problems that cannot be solved because of your absence. So you cannot combine the two. It's because the president decided to keep quiet. At the line, toward the 9 minute, he now came out to, make such order. Another one again is that the Electoral Act, once the Court of Appeal have said that Electoral Act is valid, those who do not, resign as specified in that Electoral Act, that section 84:12, will still, even if they have resigned now, at this because the time frame is there. If they have now resigned after offending that particular section, and people can still go to court to contest it, because everything has time limit. If you are asked to within 2 weeks to exit from your office, then you begin to play politics and that kind of thing. At the end of the day, because of these things, you now resign after that expiration of the time they have given. Then you goes ahead to go and contest. Even if you win there, people can still go to court to contest that you didn't exit as a time specified by the Electoral Act.
Adeniyi, do you think the APC, well, I mean, one can only conclude that the APC must have envisaged this situation. It was trying to avoid all of this drama by asking those, political appointees to actually resign. The APC did that. Then the president came, only last week. Should the president have come out earlier with this speech? Or should the APC should have been more firm in ensuring that the political appointees actually give up their jobs if they are seeking elective positions?
The political atmosphere is generally very permissive, it's one of patronage, compensation, one of friendship. Oftentimes, it's difficult for you to flex muscles because apart from being political, I shall say, they are also friends. They are partners, they are collaborators in different ways. So sometimes when it appears as if decisions are when they're going to take decisions against themselves that will affect their interests, they retreat a little bit, which is why it is often problematic for the political parties to self-regulate. And that's why INEC sometimes often rein in, and if INEC is not coming in, of course, maybe some other arms, some other institutions will also come into just to bring about some order. So it's difficult for the parties to self-regulate, to enforce some of these expectations, like the one around resignations, if you're expressing interest in political position, and that's what we'll see play out. But I don't think that, like I said earlier, it's just okay for the individuals to think that they can eat their cake and have it because of the permissive nature of our system, and because they are not too sure of where they are headed, and because, of course, no one until the president came in was actually strong enough to tell them that they have to resign. Until the president came in, before we started seeing some level of order, and that's the nature of the system, really, because we are in a system where there's a little bit of laxity, in terms of implementation of laws, of rules and regulations, etc.
Sorry, pass where, in your own words, is a very lax system.
Well, it's just, I think it was, somebody said it, maybe you or himself, that we have plenty laws, we have plenty regulations, plenty rules, and the problem is actually implementation. And we are concerned about implementation because there are so many other things, that affect our ability to implement. And what are those things? We are considerate of our divides, our classifiers, ethnicity. We pander to ethnic cleavages, we pander to religious cleavages, to income, classification, and all such things. So those things prevent us. We'll say, okay, it's my friend, it's my brother, I won't be able to do this, I won't be able to do that against him. And some of these things happen through subterfuge, really, because we find it very difficult to come in the open to do them.
Well, like they say, the law is an ass. Do you think part of this challenge is the vagueness or lack of clarity in some of these laws that, open the laws up to all manner of interpretations based on what suits you the most or not? And I'd also like you to answer very quickly before we wrap this. Is the electoral law winning, especially on the basis of this section 84:12, which has been in contention, and the events that have occurred since then? Would you say the electoral law, having been put to the test, is actually winning?
Yes, of course. It's winning because they have no option other than to be compared by the electoral law and obey it. And, Nigerians, we have one problem. You can make so many laws. What an average politicians in Nigeria is to look at that laws and see areas we can exploit and to make sure that he have his way and the other. So, no matter how beautiful or how these things you made the law, but they are still finding a way to, escape any, But the fact remains that it is now left to the leader, the president, or the people that in the position of authority to enforce the law, to make sure that such things is being enforced. I use these things to remember when Gani Fewemi was still alive. You always have a problem with the military. On the process, we keep up testing some of the decrees they are releasing out. On the process, we now know, during the interpretation, we'll be able to know what. These issues are, like, for instance, people going on, to protest or whatever. Police have been always that you cannot do that. But Gani went to court and get these things explained. The Supreme Court came out to say that police, you must watch people and you cannot stop it. You understand?
Right.
Otherwise, you normally go and get documents from the paper from the police authorizing you to do so. So in this particular aspect now, our problem is the implementation. And our problem again is for Nigerians to have that courage of going to court to seek interpretation of some certain set of, section of, constitution or any law, either electoral or any other laws.
Great. Before we go, Prof, how do you think we can further strengthen the rule of law so that it becomes the guiding principle in everything we do, whether in national life, even in private life?
It's very simple, Ngozi, and that's the point we've always made about strengthening our institutions. Institutions are the bedrock around systems and societies grow, not individuals. Our institution is the other way around, where individuals are stronger than the institution. Although we know that there's a dialectical relationship between individuals and the institution, but the onus is always on the individual to make the institution work, not just for himself, but for the entire society, so that there can be sustainability. But we still have the unfortunate situation where individuals are always stronger than institutions, and they ride roughshod over institutions. And of course, that's why you see facilities in institutions where, because services are not there, utilities are not working, the average citizen rely on individuals for school fees, for medical bill, for all such things, because the institutions are not there. But institutions are strengthened, made to work. Of course, the recourse, to individuals. Can you help me with some money? I want to pay school fees. I want to pay medical bill. Will not be there. So the important thing is to be concerned about growing the institutions and strengthening them for sustainability.
Absolutely.
And then there's one thing again.
30 seconds, if you can.
Yes. In Nigerians today, any government that comes, when you try to challenge them on the particular things, for instance, the government will be looking at you as being antagonistic and challenging them and all those things. But Government is an institution, like you mentioned. It outlives any other person. Through the texting of these particular laws, we'll be able to be adjusting and be able to, put in certain things, in a proper perspective.
Great. Well, the electoral law and all other laws apparently are being put to the test, and hopefully the rule of law will carry the day. Edozie Ezeugwa, President General and leader of the Eastern Union Congress, is still with us, very much with us. Abiodun Adeniyi, this is where I said thank you very much for joining us. Arise News Analyst. Thanks so much.